So, good afternoon, everyone. So, our topic for today is about withholding tax and compensation. So, obviously, withholding tax compensation is tax on employees. But before we go to the specifics of withholding tax compensation, let us know first what is withholding taxes or what are withholding taxes. So, withholding taxes basically um, it starts with an income received by an individual or any juridical persons that is um, of which the income they receive is subject to income tax that was further remitted to the government. Withholding tax is actually a tax withhold or being withheld by a third party or the payer of an income. The payer of an income, they withhold tax from the income of the payee and then remit it to the BIR. So what is the concept of withholding? Why is there withholding? So withholding tax is a system of advanced collection of payee's income tax liability. So the income of the payee, we all know that it is already subject to income tax. But due to the concept of withholding, certain tax payments were collected in advance on behalf of the income tax liability of the payee. So this is an amount withheld in trust for the government. Please take note that this is not an additional tax. So this is a tax coming from the income tax that was just deducted or remitted in advance on behalf of the payee or the source of the income or the income taxpayer. So why does the government withhold? So or why does the government mandates employers or mandates taxpayers to withhold? So this is to conveniently meet the probable income tax liability of the government to ensure the collection of income tax. So instead of waiting for the payment of income tax after it is earned, so it is a mechanism wherein they collect it in advance. And also for BR audit purposes, they can do third party matching of the income that is being reported by the individual or the corporate taxpayer to the BIR. So next is to improve government's cash flow. The timing of withholding. So under Revenue Regulations number 2-98, as amended by Section 4 of RR number 12-2001, an income payment. There is withholding tax is required at the time when an income payment is paid, payable, or accrued or recorded as an expense or asset, whichever is applicable in the payer's books, whichever comes first. So kung ano ang mauna between paid, payable, or accrual or recording as expense. Those taxpayers who are required to withhold a certain amount of tax from the payee's income are called withholding agents. So who are these withholding agents? So they can be any juridical person, whether or not engaged in trade or business. So pwedeng corporate, pwedeng individual. An individual with respect to payments made in connection with his trade or business, all government offices, including GOCCs, as well as provincial, city, and municipal governments, agents, employees, or any person purchasing goods or services paying for and in behalf of the aforesaid withholding agents, person having control over the payment and who at the same time claims the expenses. So technically, generally, everyone is considered as withholding agents. So what are the obligation of these withholding agents? So they are required to deduct and withhold taxes on proper time, the filing of withholding tax returns and payment within the date prescribed by the law or regulation, issuance of appropriate BIR certificates. So BIR Form 2307 if it is related to expanded withholding tax, filing of required attachments to the BIR, So for example, attachments to the BIR returns. For example, for expanded withholding tax, we needed a monthly alpha list of pays or uh, nabago na pala to, no? Quarterly alpha list of pays na pala. Wala nang monthly alpha list of pays. And then south, summary alpha list of withholding taxes. What else? Submission of alpha list of employees and BIR forms 2316 to appropriate BIR office. So this is in relation to the filing and payment of withholding tax on compensation. Submission of semestral list of regular suppliers. Compliance with the disclosure requirements in AFS under RR 15-2010 and posting requirements. Pa-mute lang po ng medyo maingay lang. Ayan, salamat. Okay. So, last week we discussed about the preparation of the annual income tax returns, in which I discussed that there is a need for disclosure of the tax payments in the AFS based on the revenue regulations 15/20/2010. So what are the kinds of withholding taxes? So we have expanded withholding tax. So expanded withholding tax is a tax withheld on income payments on suppliers, and then which is creditable against the income tax due from the payee. Final withholding tax, income tax withheld on income payments pa din. However, it is considered as final, full payment of income tax due from payee. Creditable withholding tax on wages. For the final withholding tax, it could be related to passive incomes. So that is why it is considered as already full payment of the income tax due from the payee. Withholding tax on wages. So these are income tax withheld on compensation of employees. Fringe benefit tax, income tax withheld on benefits of officers. Withholding value added tax. It could be final or creditable against VAT liability of the payee. So this is the VAT amount withheld. This is specific to government payments. So assuming that a company or an individual has transactions with government, so the government withholds 5% VAT on the total sales or the total purchase of the government. Okay. So there are two types of withholding on income payments. So it could be creditable or final. Examples of being creditable, meaning creditable, you could credit it to the main source of the tax, main source of tax. So with regards to withholding tax and compensation, it is related to the income tax of the individual under employee-employer relationship. So although the employees are under substituted filing, they still receive or the employer is required to report to the BIR a certificate of withholding from certificate of um, withholding taxes through BIR form 2316. So nakakredit doon um, lahat ng income payments over the year of the taxpayer or the employee, and then lahat ng na-credit sa kanya na income tax. So, expanded withholding tax, creditable siya against the income tax of the one who is receiving the payment. So, for example, company A, so nagbenta siya ng goods, and that company B withheld 1% of tax on the purchase of goods, then that 1% is already creditable to the income tax due of company A. So he can use it as a tax credit. So withholding that, as discussed earlier, it could be final or creditable. So in case is creditable, so pansin nyo sa VAT, sa 2550M or Q natin, there is a allowed tax credit or allowed tax deduction that is related to withholding VAT. So it is creditable. Final withholding tax. So under the final type of withholding. So final withholding tax, since it is related to passive income, is considered full payment already of the tax. So there is no need to report another income tax. So it is not an advance. It is not really an advance collection of tax, unlike expanded. But it is an advance. However, it is already the final amount. So hindi ka na magko-compute ng income tax related to that and then i-credit mo. So kung ano yung ma-compute na final withholding tax, that is already the final tax due or the income tax due for the specific income. Fringe benefit tax. So fringe benefit tax is an income tax imposed on the benefits provided by a company, by an employer to his or her managerial or supervisory employees. So whatever fringe benefit tax has been paid or has been granted to employees having having supervisory or managerial position, so the tax is already final. So hindi rin naman nagke-credit doon. So that is tax imposed on the benefits kasi na binibigay ni employer. Okay? So that's it for the withholding tax. Now we will proceed ngayon with withholding tax on compensation. So withholding tax on compensation is basically based on the salary or compensation of an individual or employee that is paid by employers to employee or an individual. These employers withhold certain amount of tax from this paid salaries or paid compensation of individuals and then remit it eventually to the government. So what are the payroll compliance under or in the Philippines? So what are the payroll compliance here in the Philippines? So there is a regulatory mandate. So every employer who has employees and employer paying employees compensation, it follows the labor code and the standards of the tax code. So labor code for the benefits that must be provided to the incentives, the compensation that must be provided to the employees, while the tax code is based on, or it is the basis of the employer to impose the tax thereof. So the Labor Code of the Philippines, the government mandates each employer to provide employees certain benefits. So what are these? So one example is the mandatory government contributions. So from the mandatory government benefits, co-curricular contribution, it's mandatory government benefits coming from the Social Security System, PhilHealth, GSIS, and Pag-ibig. Apart from that, there are wages or compensation benefits and leave benefits that is provided under the labor code. So what are these? Under the wages and compensation benefits, the minimum wage, the holiday pay, premium pay, overtime pay, night shift pay, service charges, 13th month pay, separation pay, retirement benefits, and employees compensation commission benefits. Under the leave benefits, there are service incentive leaves, maternity leaves, paternity leave, parental leave, leave for violence against women and children, special leave for women, and special leave for women. So under the labor code, based on the compliance guide of the Workers' Statutory Monetary Benefits Handbook 2019 edition, so this is the summary of the applicability of these benefits to certain establishments. So minimum wage, it is applicable to all kinds of service establishment. So this is without exception. Holiday pay, if the retail or service establishment employs less than 10 less than 10 workers, so they are not allowed to uh, pay certain holiday pay, except if it is non-agriculture or agriculture. Premium pay, overtime pay, service charges, maternity leave, paternity leave, parental leave, leave for violence against women and children, especially for women, 13th month pay, separation pay, ECC benefits, PhilHealth benefits, SSS benefits, and Pag-ibig benefits could be applied to all kinds of establishment without regards to the number of workers. So except for the holiday pay, night shift pay, which is if it is less than if the employees are less than 5 or not more than 5 employees, so the night shift differential pay will not apply. So service incentive leave, so for it to be for for it to be applicable, so it should not be less than 10 employees. So retirement pay, so if it is if the company is employing not more than 10 workers, so they are not subject or they are not the retirement pay benefit is not applicable to the employees of the company. ECC, PhilHealth, and SSS and Pag-ibig benefits are paid by the government. So in case of sickness, so there's a equivalent SSS benefit that is being provided by the government. So if you want to know the details, or if we want to read further the details of these standards, you may refer to the Workers' Statutory Monetary Benefits Handbook 2019 edition, which is searchable in Google. Okay. Under RA number 8424, as amended by RA number 10963, so there is a tax imposed on a salary, on the salary of employees that is being withheld by the employer and further remitted to the BIR. So the salaries plus the benefits is equal to tax, or it is subject to certain tax. Okay. So next, let's discuss further about the taxation of compensation of employees. So compensation as imposed employees. So it is equivalent to the basic salary and the incentives or the benefits that could be mandated by law or company initiated. So mandated by law, yung diniscuss natin earlier, that is under the labor code. So there are company initiated um, incentives or benefits. So for example, productivity bonus, or if in the if in the labor code, uh, it is an employer or the company should provide employees service incentive leaves at a minimum of five leaves applicable to the vacation and sick leave. Under company initiated benefits, the company could provide or grant employees 10 VLs and 10 SLs. So they can exceed from the amount that is being set by the government or that is mandated by law. So the compensation could be taxable or non-taxable. Let's define first what is compensation or wages. So compensation is generally remuneration for services performed by an employee under employee or employee-employer relationship. So an individual must be under employee-employer relationship for for his income to be classified as compensation. So what it what is meant by employee-employer relationship? So this kind of relationship exists when the person for whom services were performed has the right to control and direct the individual who performs the services, not only as to the result to be accomplished by the work, but also as to the details and means by which the result is accomplished. So there is a right to control and direct an individual. What are the kinds of compensation? We have two kinds of compensation. One is regular and then the other is supplementary. Under the regular, it includes the basic salary and fixed allowances such as representation, transportation, and other allowances. So that is the main composition of a regular compensation. So under supplementary, so an employee could still get commissions. So for example, if the company is engaged in the trade or sale of properties, sometimes they use their employees to get some customers or um, to get some buyers, buyers. So in exchange for every closed transaction, the company provides or gives the employee commission. So this commission is included as compensation of the employee. Overtime and other premium pay. So if in case the employee rendered, so what the required number of hours, working hours is equivalent to 8 hours a day. So if an employee works beyond the 8 hours a day as mandated, so they're entitled to have overtime and premium pays. But this is already supplementary income. If in case the company allows a profit sharing scheme, so any profit received based on the profit sharing provided by the employer is a supplementary income of the employee. Bonus and incentives, since they are not fixed by nature, they're already supplementary. So most likely, regular regular compensation is that uh, something that is fixed or something that is regular, something that is fixed in amount given at regular intervals. While supplementary, it varies from time to time upon the happening of such instance. So bonus or incentive, if the company provides bonus or incentive, so it is variable to the other remuneration received under employer relationship of the same nature. So anything that is variable in nature received by the received by the employee should be considered as supplementary income. Okay. Responsibilities of the employer. So sabi natin kanina, 'di ba, kasi yung employer, uh, the main responsibility of the employer is to withhold and remit the withholding taxes of the um, employee or the individual they are paying compensation. So what are the other responsibilities of the employer? So they must submit the duly accomplished BIR form numbers 1902 and 1905 within 30 days from receipt. This is related uh upon the tawag dito, upon hiring of the employee. So it is necessary. So the registration of the employee must be updated with the RDO. So withhold the tax due from the employees following the prescribed manner. Remit the amount of tax withheld from the employee within the prescribed due dates. Do the year-end adjustment. Submit annual information return 1604C. Including the required alphabetical list of employees or pays on or before January 31, following the close of the calendar year. Issue the certificate of compensation, payment, or tax withheld, BIR Form 23162, to the employees. So at the end of the year, so usually this was given every after the filing of the 231s. After the filing of 2316 with the BIR, usually sa SCP. So the 2316 is required to be filed on or before February 28th of the succeeding year. In case of any tax withheld, excess tax withheld, so the company must refund this excess tax to the individual payees or individual employees. So next, let's discuss the valuation of compensation income. So if the compensation income was given in the form of cash, so there are two kinds of compensation income, the valuation. So it could be paid in cash or paid in kind. So if paid in cash, the valuation of compensation income is equivalent to the amount of cash received, while if paid in kind, if, for example, it is a property or shares of stocks, the fair value of property or stocks at the time of payment, if it is a cancellation of debt of an employee, so it should be equivalent to the amount of debt. If it is related to promissory notes, then the fair value of the note. So this valuation of compensation income is the basis of withholding of tax. Next. So let's distinguish or identify which samples of income, the common income payments that are taxable or non-taxable. So under taxable, of course, the regular compensation and the supplementary compensation, which includes holiday pay, premium pay, overtime pay, night shift pay, service charges, 13-month pay, and other benefits in excess of 90,000. So non-taxable, minimum wage income, maternity leave, 13th month pay not exceeding 90,000, retirement pay, separation pay, subject to conditions. Retirement pay and separation pay, for it to be non-taxable, it must follow certain conditions. Okay, so let's discuss one by one. The so holiday pay. So let's start with holiday pay. So holiday pay, this refers to the payment of the regular daily wage for any unworked regular holiday. So what coverage? So it applies to all except government employees, those employing uh, less than 10 employees, kasambahay and persons in the personal service of another, managerial employees who manages an establishment or department, regularly direct the work of two or more employees, has the authority to hire and fire, and officers or members of the managerial staff whose work is directly related to management policies, who exercise discretion and independent judgment, and who assist a managerial employee. Also, they execute work along specialized and technical lines, and they are assigned with special tasks. So, moreover, they do not devote more than 20% of hours in activities related to management. So, if they are, in the case of SAP, so kung more than 20 hours ay related sa operations or dun sa field work, then that individual may be allowed to receive a holiday pay. So if not more than 20%, so they are not covered by the holiday pay. And lastly, those employees paid in fixed amount irrespective of the time consumed is not uh is not allowed to receive holiday pay. So sino ba tong who are paid in fixed amount? So yung mga walang time, so those those employees who do not account for any time for an parang output based lang sila. So uh, on regardless kung gaano there's no time in, time out, but paid fixed. They are paid fixed based on the output that they or regardless of the output, regardless of the time. So basta fixed yung amount nila na nare-receive from their employer. So conditions for entitlement of holiday pay. So the employee must be present or on leave of absence with pay on the working day before the holiday. So that is the condition. So if not, the holiday pay will be considered as unpaid. Okay. Regular holiday for employees, uh, if employee under employees regular working day, if the regular holiday falls on a regular working day, if unworked, so 100% of the regular daily wage. So if the employee, say for example, regular day is um, Christmas Day. So based dun sa calendar natin ng 2021, yung 24 is not a regular holiday, 'di ba? So it is so hindi rin siya in-announce sa special holiday ngayon, 'di ba? So kapag hindi ka pumasok ng December 24 or hindi ka nag-file ng leave with pay on December 24, even if on work, so the December 25 holiday pay na meron ka dapat will be zero. So you will not be eligible for the claiming of irregular holiday pay. So if work, pag nag-work naman, this is equivalent to 200% on the first 8 hours plus 30% in excess of the 8 hours. So illustration. So using the NCR minimum wage of 537 per day for the non-agricultural sector, for work within 8 hours, so plus 100 of the minimum wage of 100% or total of 200. So in this case, for a non-agriculture, so 537 ang rate natin. So times 200% as prescribed is equal to 1,074. So instead of receiving just 537, if the employee worked on that day, so it means that magdo-double yung kanyang salary for that day. So in case of retail or service establishment employing less than 10 workers, they are not covered by the holiday pay. So if the regular holiday falls on the employee's rest day naman, if work, this equivalent to 260% on the first 8 hours plus 30% in excess of the 8 hours. So, for example, Mr. Santos is a regular employee receiving gross compensation of 12,000 per month. So, as per company policy, regular working days per month is 26 days. Due to job demand, his employer required him to work on Independence Day, which also falls as his rest day. He works 12 hours a day. He worked 12 hours a day that day from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. So, how much is the holiday pay that needs to be paid by the employer? So his regular rate per hour, let's get first the regular rate per hour. So that is 12,000 divided by 26 days divided by 8 hours. So ang per hour rate niya is 57.69. So regular holiday pay related to the work na ginawa niya is 57.69 times 8 hours times 260%. So that is equivalent to 1,199.95. And since Mr. Santos ba? Yeah. And since Mr. Santos rendered overtime equivalent to 4 hours, so we have 130% times 260% of 57.69 times 4 hours. So we get 780. So the regular holiday pay of 1,199.95 plus the 780, Mr. Santos' total holiday pay is equivalent to 1,979.95 for that day. Next, if the regular holiday fall falls on the same or when there are two holidays that fall on the same regular working day. So if one work is equivalent to 200% of the regular daily wage. Say we compute for two holidays. If work, so 300% on the first 8 hours plus 30% in excess of the 8 hours. Okay. So same computation lang din tayo. Okay, premium pay. So premium pay naman refers to the additional compensation for work performed within 8 hours on non-working days. This is specific to rest days and special days. So coverage. So generally the same except ang pinakaiba lang ng premium pay and holiday pay, premium pay is not based on the number of employees, but it is based on the workers who are paid in results. So those workers who are paid in results are not included or hindi applicable sa kanila yung premium pay. So generally the same sila. So premium pay rates, if it uh if it is on during rest days or special days, plus there's 30% of the regular daily wage. If rest day or if the special day falls on the rest day of the employee plus 50% of the regular daily wage, and if the regular holiday falls on the rest day, it is plus 30% of the regular holiday rate of 20%. So if the special day or special working days, special working days, by the way, is declared by uh, the president. So, depende sa, we have a list of special working holidays that you may refer to. So, you can search it on Google. So if a special day fall on a regular working day, if unworked, so there's no pay unless there's a favorable policy practice or CBA. If work 130% on the first 8 hours plus 30% in excess of the 8 hours. So for illustration, so Gary is a minimum wage earner in a manufacturing company located in Manila. It is the company's peak season, so they required him to work even on All Saints Day. So he worked from 8 a.m. to 12 midnight that day. How much is his premium pay? So compute first the regular rate per hour. In this illustration, we have 67.125. So the premium pay, so 67.125 times 8 times 130% is equivalent to 698.1. So plus 30% lang siya no 8 hours or the 100%. If the special holiday falls on a rest day of on the rest day of an employee, if work, it is based on the 150% on the first 8 hours plus 30% in excess of the 8 hours. So rate lang yung nabaga natin. Next, overtime pay. Overtime pay refers to the additional compensation for work performed beyond 8 hours a day. So the coverage of this, so it applies to those um, uh, applies to all except to those covered under the premium pay. So, I mean, yung coverage niya, you may refer to those um, covered under premium pay. So, overtime pay rates. So, for the ordinary working days, so ordinary working days means not irregular holiday or not a special day. So, ordinary work days lang yan. It is equivalent to 25% of the regular hourly rate. For rest days or special days, plus 30% of the 130% hourly rate. If the special day fall on the rest day, so plus 30% of the 150% hourly rate. So if it is on a regular holiday, 30% of the 200% hourly rate. If the regular holiday fall on a rest day, so it's 260% hourly rate. Also plus 30% of the 260% hourly rate. Night shift differential. So night shift differential refers to the additional compensation of 10% for work performed between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So generally, it applies to all except yung exceptions natin, halos same lang with the other uh, other pays or other holiday or premium pays. So ang difference lang is instead of not less than 10 employees or those under the holiday pay, it was mentioned that it is not applicable to those who are less than 10 employees. For premium pay, it is applicable to irregardless of the number of employees. While here in night shift differential, if uh, the employer or the company is employing not more than 5 employees, then they could not avail of the night shift differential. So dapat more than. Okay, so same coverage lang on the other. Okay. So night shift differential rates. So um, it is just the same computation. Magdadagdag lang tayo ng 10% on each. So for example, if it is an ordinary day and then night shift, so the 100% times 110% or 1.1. So equivalent to 110%. So if rest day or and night shift, that is 1.3 times 1.1 or 143%, and so on. So this is your guide when it comes to the night shift differential rates. So if in case it is an ordinary day and then the employee rendered night shift and overtime, so that is 1 times 1.1 times 1.25 or equivalent to 137.5%. So basically, the application of night shift differential is not really complicated. You just need to add 10% on the hourly rate from 10 p.m. up to 6 a.m. Other taxable compensation. So service charges, monetized service incentive leaves, and vacation and sick leaves. If not monetized, then it is not subject for it is not taxable income. So bakit ba nagkakaroon ng monetized? If in case there are unused tax or unused leave credits, the company sometimes, as company initiated benefit, they convert this unused leaves to cash. So any conversion of this benefit would entail taxability of the compensation being received. Living quarters or meals, except if for the convenience of the employer. So um, sometimes for a an allowance being provided by an employer to be non-taxable, the employer must prove that it is for their convenience. So okay, next. So we have determined the taxable income or taxable compensation income of an employee. Next, let's discuss the non-taxable compensation income of an employee. Sickness benefit is one of sickness benefit from social security system is excluded as gross compensation income of an employee. So this refers to the daily cash allowance paid to a member due to work-related sickness or injury. So 90% of the members, this is 90% of the members' average daily salary credit multiplied by the number of days approved, and it could be claimed in a maximum of 120 days in one calendar year. So for an employee to be qualified to receive sickness benefit, he or she must be unable to work due to sickness or injury, confined for not less than 4 days. So dapat more than 4 days. At least 3 months contributions, the employer must have paid 3 months contributions within the 12-month period immediately before the semester of sickness. So the determination of 12-month period immediately before the semester of sickness. So if in case, so di ba we have how many semesters in a year? So 2. In every semester, there are 2 quarters. So say for example that the employee has become sick or was become sick during September of September. So the count of the 12-month period does not start on October. Ay, does not start on August. Pabalik. So, pabalik daw to eh. Before eh. So, hindi ganon. So, the determination of the 12-month period is you must first determine the semester in which the sickness happened. So, if it is September, the quarter that the sickness happened is September, di ba? So, the quarter, it includes the August, September, July, August, September. So, that is one quarter. We will also get the the next uh, preceding quarter, which is April, March, June. So, from April to September, that is the semester of sickness. So the contributions must be at least 3 months within the 12-month period immediately before the semester of sickness. So that should be from uh that should be last year's last year's last year's fourth quarter, or last year's October, from last year's October up to the current year's March. So that on that 12-month period, so there must be at least 3 months contributions. So hindi dun sa hindi tayo sa sa April, May, June dapat may contributions. Dapat prior, the 12-month period prior to the sickness, dapat meron tayong 3 months. Ay, 6 months lang pala yung October no? So, adjust pa tayo. Basta 12 months pabalik, paatras. Dapat meron dong 3 months, at least 3 months contributions to be considered, or for the employee to be qualified. So, the sickness benefit so must apply if all company sick leaves with pay was already consumed. And of course, to notify the employer or SSS of the said sickness. So without notification, without proper notification through the employer or directly to SSS, then you cannot claim for the sickness benefit. So, example, so Mangustin is a construction worker and gets injured last October 2015 for 30 days. Assuming that his monthly salary credit is 15,000, how much sickness benefit can he avail? So, his monthly salary credit is 15,000 times 6 months. So 6 months refers to the highest monthly salary credit within a period of 12 months, including the semester of excluding the semester of sickness. So 15,000 times 6 months is what equivalent to 90,000. So the daily sickness allowance is 90,000 divided by 180 days or 500 pesos. the sickness benefit due. So to get the sickness benefit due, we have to multiply 500 by 90%, kasi hanggang 90% lang daw, times the number of days the employee has become sick. So Mangustine's sickness benefit due is equivalent to 13,500. Next, maternity leave. So maternity leave refers to paid leave of female employees, married or unmarried, in relation to pregnancy. So 100% of the members' average daily salary credit multiplied by 100 days for normal or cesarean delivery or 60 days for miscarriage. So this is granted in lieu of wages, thus not included in the computation of 13th month pay for the calendar year. Maternity leave is another example of a non-taxable income. So previously, there is a limitation uh, of up to 4 deliveries for maternity leaves to be applicable, or kailangan hanggang 4 lang daw na panganganak para ma-claim mo ang maternity leave. Beyond 4 deliveries, you will no longer be allowed to or you will no longer be entitled for a maternity leave. However, dun sa amendment, so what happened is that there has been no mention na of the limit of 4. So, tinanggal na yung provision that there should be a limit or of at least 4 deliveries. The qualification, so the member, the pregnant employee must be SSS member employed, and she must have notified SSS through the employer or directly the SSS. And then at least 3 months contributions was paid by the employer within the 12-month period before childbirth or miscarriage. So, for example, Mrs. Santos will give birth on December 2016 and will undergo cesarean operation. So, how much maternity benefit can she avail considering her monthly salary credit is 12,000? So again, so we will get the 6 highest monthly salary credit. So that is 12,000 times 6. So the total is equivalent to 72,000. The daily maternity allowance is equivalent to 400. That is 72,000 divided by 180 days. The maternity benefit due is equivalent to 42,000. That is 400 times 105 days. So, as mentioned earlier, for those who are under or for those deliveries under normal or cesarean, they are entitled to have 100 days of paid maternity leaves. So the maximum benefit often of a pregnant employee is equivalent to 70,000 for normal or CS and 80,000 for solo parent. So if in case the maximum benefit has been exceeded, or sabihin na natin the maternity benefit due is equivalent to, instead of 42,000, it is 100,000. So 100,000 minus 70,000. 70,000 is for the this is the amount that will be paid by SSS. So in excess of that shall be shouldered by the employer. So the 30,000 will be shouldered by the employer. Next, 13th month pay. So 13th month pay is the 1/12 of the total basic salary earned by an employee in a calendar year. So please take note that it is based on the basic salary and not the total compensation being received by the employee. So how to compute for the 13th month pay? So total basic salary earned during the year divided by 12 months is equivalent to the proportionate 13th month pay. So parang isang buwan. Isang buwan na sweldo ng isang empleyado sa loob ng isang taon. Okay. For illustration, using the basic wage in the National Capital Region at 502 and 537 and the 6-day work week on an equivalent monthly basic salary of 12,466 and 13,290 respectively. So the total basic salary earned for the year is 122,977.72. Please take note that the absences were excluded. So absences without pay or leave without pay are excluded in the computation of the monthly basic salary of the employee. So So it does not necessarily mean that if you are earning or you are receiving monthly salary of 25,000, you will receive a 13th month pay of 25,000 then. So in this case, absences are deducted from the gross or from the basic salary. So as a result, the 13th month pay to be paid by the employer could be lower than 25,000. Similar to this case, instead of 12,466.33, the amount that is being earned by the by a minimum wage earner is equivalent only to 10,248.14. So, yan, in-exclude yung mga absences. So that's how 13th month pay is being computed. So absences lang binabawas natin. Nothing more, nothing less. 13th month pay and other benefits, such as productivity incentives and Christmas bonus, not exceeding 90,000 pesos are exempt from taxation. Okay? So exceeding 90,000 will entail taxability of the 13th month pay. Separation pay. So this refers to the amount that an employee receives at the time of his severance. So conditions. So the termination of the employee is for any authorized causes. So please take note that it should be for authorized causes for separation pay to be provided. Where there is legal dismissal and reinstatement is no longer feasible for that employee. And then, as a measure of social justice, where the employee is validly dismissed for causes other than serious misconduct or those reflecting on his moral character. Please take note that termination based on just cause and voluntary resignation from employment is not entitled to separation pay. So ano ba yung just cause? If there are company policies that uh, was not being followed. So it and then the company kumbaga may due process dun sa happening nung cause na yun or dun sa cause ng dismissal. So yan, may due process tayo dyan. So first, this is what we've been doing in SCP naman eh. So present naman to. So upon violation, there is a written warning, then written warning coming from the HR, and then the employee has the right to explain through um, a written explanation. And then, if in case based on, or if in case uh, nangyari ulit, and then due to numerous violations, etc., the employer or the company could terminate that employee. So that is just cause. So voluntary resignation, if the employee just resigned for a personal purpose or for a personal reason, then it is not entitled for a separation pay. So ang entitled lang is yung authorized causes. Separation pay is exempt from income tax if received as a result of death, sickness, or physical disability, causes beyond the control of the said employee. For example, retrenchment or redundancy. Those are some of the examples. So this is um, how separation pay was being computed. One half, 1/2 month pay per service applies to retrenchment, closure or cessation of business, employee that is suffering from disease not curable within 6 months, wherein the health is prejudicial to his own health and his co-workers. And then for security guards, if there is lack of service assignment within 6 months. So for 1 month pay per service, installation by employer of labor saving devices, redundancy of positions, impossible reinstatement of employee, and lack of service assignment pertaining again to security guards by reason of age. So these are example of authorized causes under the law. So these are the only causes that was being mentioned in the labor code as subject to the separation pay. So if the separation pay, as discussed earlier, is subject or is based on retrenchment, redundancy, closure, or cessation of business, then the separation pay is subject to or not subject to tax. Basis of computation, separation pay is based on the salary rate plus regular allowances. So the basic salary rate plus fixed allowances. So that would be the basis of separation pay. Next, retirement pay. So this refers to the amount of benefit received upon retirement. So there are conditions. So if there are no reasonable private benefit plan, retirement pay must apply to those who are 60 years old but not more than 65 years old and have at least 5 years of service in the company. So if in case uh, the employee is already 65 years old, then he is mandated to retire already. Number two, correction on number two, if this is with reasonable private benefit plan. So, retirement pay is applicable. So, this is an optional application of the retirement pay. So, if not less than 50 years old, if those whose age is not less than 50 years old or 50 years old above, they can retire already. And if also they have at least 10 years of service in the company, they can already file for retirement. So under Republic Act number 7641, so minimum retirement pay is equivalent to 1/2 month salary times years of service. So 1/2 month salary means 15 days salary based on the latest salary rate, cash equivalent of 5 days of service incentive leave, and 1/12 of the 13th month pay. So that is 2.5. So equivalent 22.5 days. That is the 1/2 month salary of the person who is retiring or who is claiming retirement pay. So retirement pay, whether it is received under the provisions of RA number 7641 or under a reasonable private plan, it is exempt from tax, provided that it could only be claimed once. Cost of living allowance is not included in the basis for computing retirement pay. So basic lang tayo. For example, so Mr. Delgado, 65 years old, decided to retire after 15 years of service to ABC company. He is receiving 25,000 gross compensation every month. Company policy on regular working days per month is 26. How much retirement benefits will he receive? So 25,000 divided by 26 days is equivalent to 961.54. That is his daily rate. So his retirement pay is computed as follows. So 15 years times 961.54 times 22.5. So that is equivalent to 324,519.23. So on his retirement, he will receive this amount, 324,519.23. Next, de minimis benefit. So de minimis benefit, also non-taxable employee income. So this refers to facilities or privileges furnished or offered by an employer to his employees that are of relatively small value and are offered or furnished by the employer merely as a means of promoting health, goodwill, contentment, or the efficiency of his employees. So this is considered tax exempt if the benefit did not exceed the limit set for each de minimis benefit. Okay, what are the de minimis benefit? So monetize and use vacation leave credits for private employees must not exceed 10 days. So if, later na. Sige, ito muna. So monetize value of VLNSL credits for government employees, 100%. Medical cash allowance for the dependents of an employee shall not exceed 1,500 per employee per semester or 250 pesos per month. Rice subsidy, 2,000 or 1 sack of 50 kilograms rice, but not exceeding 2,000 per month. Uniform and clothing allowance, not exceeding 6,000 per annum. Actual medical assistance, not exceeding 10,000 per annum. Laundry allowance, not exceeding 300 per month. And employment achievement awards, that is in kind, not cash, not GCs, which not exceeds 10,000 pesos. So if the employment achievement award is received as cash, then it is not considered as the minimis benefit. It could now form part of taxable compensation of an employee. Gifts made during Christmas and major anniversary celebration must not exceed 5,000 per annum. daily meal allowance for OT work and night or graveyard shift, not exceeding 25% of the basic minimum wage per region. If, for example, the minimum wage is 537, the de minimis benefit is equivalent to 134 pesos. So the maximum is 134 pesos for the daily meal allowance for OT work and night or graveyard shift. So benefits received by employee through CBA and any productive incentive schemes must not exceed 10,000 per taxable year. Okay, so what if the de minimis exceeds the threshold or the amount of benefit given to employees initially as the minimis benefit exceeds the threshold of the de minimis? So under Revenue Regulations number 15-2011, so provision of more than the limits of de minimis benefits for rank and file will be subject to withholding tax and compensation in excess of the threshold of 13th month pay and benefits amounting to 90,000. And for supervisory or managerial, it would be subject to fringe benefit tax also in excess of the threshold of the 13th month pay and benefits amounting to 90,000. So, so anything that was not mentioned as the minimis benefits or as not within the 11 items of the minimis benefits shall be included as initially part of the 13th month pay and other benefits amounting to 90,000. In excess, if that is for rank and file, it will be subject to withholding tax and compensation, while for supervisory or managerial employees, it will be subject to fringe benefit tax. Next, minimum wage. This is non-taxable employee income. So this refers to the lowest wage permitted by law. So minimum wage earners, this is paid with they are paid with a statutory minimum wage. They are exempt from income tax on their statutory minimum wage. Additional exemptions for minimum wage earners are as follows: the cost of living allowance, the holiday pay, overtime pay, night shift differential pay, and hazard pay. Additional compensation received by minimum wage earners outside the statutory minimum wage, including benefits which exceeds the 90,000 threshold, will be subject to withholding tax on compensation. So, assuming that a minimum wage earner earns uh, 13,962. So that is 537 times 26. And then he receives additional compensation, for example, commission from the company amounting to 10,000 or as okay, 10,000. So that 10,000, the 13,962 is considered as exempt. The 10,000 compensation income that he additionally received might be subject to income tax or might be subject to withholding tax. So the 10,000, um, if the total compensation income or the supplementary income received uh, by the minimum wage earner, which is exclusive of the statutory minimum wage, does not exceed 250,000, then it is still not taxable. But if the compensation income or the supplementary income received by the minimum wage earner outside the statutory minimum wage exceeds the 250,000, the amount of that specific compensation will be subject to applicable tax rates. Ayan. So, provided that the additional compensation exceeds 250,000. Okay. Other non-taxable compensation, so remuneration paid for agricultural labor, remuneration for domestic services, remuneration for casual labor not in the course of an employer's trade or business, payment for damages, proceeds of life insurance, amount received by the insured as a return of premium, compensation for injuries or sickness, income exempt under treaty. This non-taxable compensation were also mentioned in our discussion or was discussed or were discussed. Some of it were discussed during the discussion on the annual income tax preparation and computation. So, what are the deductions to the compensation income of an employee? So, these employee contributions on these are the employee contributions on government, mandatory government contributions. So, employee share on social security system, PhilHealth contributions, GSIS, and Pag-ibig fund contributions. So I will discuss only the three, SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig. So GSIS, this is the equivalent part of social SSS for government employees. SSS is for private, while GSIS is for government. Okay. Social security system. So pursuant to the enactment of RA number 11199, known as the Social Security Act of 2018, the new schedule of contributions of employers and employees is hereby issued and shall be effective for the applicable month of January 2021 as per SSC. So, okay, I will try na lang later to I will try to show you an example on how to use the um, Social Security schedule of contributions. And so that is one example of a deduction to the compensation income of an employee. Next, Philippine Health Insurance Corporation. So this is the latest schedule of monthly premiums of PhilHealth. So for 2020, it is already the premium rate is already equivalent to 3%. 2019, it is only 2.75. However, in 2020, it increased to 3%. So there are proposed increases on the succeeding years for PhilHealth. So 2021, 3.5%, 2022, 4%, 2023, 4.5%, 2024 to 2025, 5%. So the payment of monthly premium is 50% for employee and 50% for employer. So assuming that the basic salary of an employee is equivalent to 10,000 times the rate applicable, the premium rate for year 2020, which is equivalent to 3%. So the um, contribution is the contribution or the premium amount, the monthly premium is 300. So that is 10,000 times 3%. So 50% or 150 will be paid by the employee and 150 will be paid by the employer. There is a suspension of the increase in members' monthly premiums for the year 2021. So, for this year, for 2021, the rates the rates applicable to 2020 the rates in 2020 will be applicable for this year's uh, monthly premium, members' monthly premium. So, same pa rin tayo. For 2021, we will still be using the rate of 3%. Pag-ibig or Home Development Mutual Fund. So, if the monthly compensation is not more than 1,500, so employee share is 1% and employer share is 2%. If more than 1,500, then employee share is equivalent to 2% and employer share is 2%. So, a total of 4%. So, the maximum contribution for an employee and an employer is equivalent to 100 each. The employee can contribute. However, in some cases, the employee or the pag-ibig usually allows contribution of more than what is required by uh, pag-ibig. So, employee can contribute more than what is required. Okay. Next. We all know, so let's discuss the applicable tax rate. We all know that the compensation income is based on the graduated income tax rate. So that is from 0 to 35%. However, for the monthly, to determine the monthly withholding tax, we uses this revised withholding tax table. So this revised withholding tax table is effective from January 1, 2018 to December 31, 2022. Starting January 1, 2023, we will be using another withholding tax table since the range and the rates will also change. So later, I will have an illustration on how to compute or how to use this revised withholding tax table. Okay. First, let's know the steps on how to compute for the withholding tax on compensation. Number one, let us determine the gross taxable compensation per payroll period. Then, determine the non-taxable compensation, including the minimis benefits. So, also, we need to deduct certain exclusions to determining the appropriate table for the payroll period to be used. Should it be monthly, semi-monthly, weekly, or daily? And finally, compute the withholding tax due by adding the tax predetermined in the compensation level in the top of the column to the tax on the excess over the compensation level multiplied by the tax rate. Okay. So to illustrate, we have basic salary for the month amounting to 25,000, overtime pay 1,500, holiday pay 3,500. And statutory contributions, so these are employee contributions for SSS 800, PhilHealth 375, HDMF 100. So how did we get the statutory contributions? So for HDMF, we get the maximum kasi it is more than 1,500. So 1,000 times 500, ay, 25,000 times 500, what? 25,000 times 2% is already 500. As discussed earlier, the maximum contribution allowed is equivalent only to 100 pesos. So the pag-ibig contribution that must be um, paid by the employee must be equivalent to 100 pesos only. For PhilHealth, so that is 25,000 times 3%. So 750 times 50%, which is the employee contribution, is equivalent to 375. Let me share to you the SSS contribution table for a while. Okay. So this is the new SSS contribution schedule effective April 2019. So for the 25,000 basic salary, before we go to our example, the new SS contribution schedule includes schedule for employed, self-employed, voluntary member, and non-working spouse. Also, it has a schedule for household employers and kasambahay, and then OFW members. So there is different um, contribution schedule for each type of employees and employers. In our example, so we have 25,000 basic salary. Based on the range of compensation, so we will fall on the last portion of the last row of the schedule. So that is 19,750 and above. So we will qualify under that one. The monthly salary credit for a 25,000 compensation is 20,000. The employer's contribution is equivalent to 1/6, while the employee share is equivalent to 800. So that's how we get for the contribution of for the SSS. So in that case, we have 800. Okay. Next, let's compute for the withholding tax due. Total taxable income based on our example is equivalent to 30,000. That is 25,000 basic salary for the month plus overtime pay plus holiday. So that is 30. Then we deduct the statutory contributions. That is the total of 800 plus 375 plus 100. So that is 1,275. Our net taxable income now is equivalent to 28,725 pesos. So to get the withholding tax due, let's go back dun sa revised withholding tax due natin. So ano nga yung amount? We have 28,725. So based on the revised withholding tax table, we determine the compensation level. First we determine what kind of payroll period. Since our example is on a monthly basis, then we will consider the monthly payroll schedule. So dun tayo sa monthly sa baba. So in the monthly, there are different columns. So for each column, so the first row, the compensation level. Once we already determined the payroll period, we determine now the compensation level. Sorry. So since our income is equivalent to 28,000, then so magfo-fall tayo under column number 2. So we cannot go on on column number 3 kasi hindi naman tayo nag-exceed ng 33,000. So doon lang tayo sa 20,833. So ito yung compensation level natin. So the amount of compensation is 20,833 and the tax rate is equivalent to 20%, while the initial tax or fixed tax for under this column is 0. So let's go back to our example. Okay. So 28,725 less the compensation range, 20,833. So the excess is equivalent to 7,892. This excess, the 7,892, shall be multiplied by 20%. So that is the tax due for the excess, plus the prescribed withholding tax or the fixed tax based on the revised withholding schedule. In this case, we do not have any tax. Yeah, so we do not have any tax. Also, the tax is already fixed. No tax fixed for the column or the schedule. So the withholding tax due is 1,578.4. Administrative requirements. So we are on the last part of our discussion on the topic withholding tax on compensation. So deadline and filing of payment. So forms required 1601C and 1604CF. 1601C is the monthly remittance return of creditable income taxes withheld on compensation. This is for large and non-large taxpayers. Deadline of filing and payment is on or before the 10th day of the following month in which withholding was made except for taxes withheld for the month of December, which shall be filed on or before January 15 of the succeeding year. This deadline is applicable for the manual filers. For EFTS filers, the groupings must be followed. So for Group A, 15 days. After 15 days, after the close of the month. Group B, after 14 days. Group C, after 13 days. Group D, 12 days. And Group E, 11 days after the close of the month. So 1604CF is the annual information return of income, tax withheld on compensation and final withholding taxes. So this is applicable to both large and non-large taxpayers. The deadline of filing is on or before January 31 of the following calendar year in which the compensation payments subject to final withholding taxes were paid or accrued. Normally, 1604CF just summarizes all the monthly payments during January up to December based on the monthly 1601C. What are the components of BIR annual information returns? Okay, part 1, this information is related to the withholding agent or employer. Part 2, these are the summary of remittances made under 1601C. Six, Actually, this is already 1601 FQ, 1602 and 1603. Formats to be followed for the alphabetical list of employees for Part 3, from whom taxes were withheld, which is composed of 7 schedules. Schedule 5, alpha list of payees subject to final withholding tax. Schedule 6, alpha list of employees other than rank and file who were given fringe benefits during the year. Schedule 7.1, alpha list of employees terminated before December 31. 7.2, alpha list of employees whose compensation income are exempt from withholding but subject to income tax. 7.3, for those with no previous employer within the year. 7.4, for those with previous employer within the year. And 7.5 for the alpha list of minimum wage earners. So that's it for the for our topic for withholding tax on compensation.